We're watching The Truth Be Told here on Boom Live's social media handles. I'm Faye. Thank you for joining us. Well, there was a big decision that came out from the Supreme Court yesterday. We were all talking about it. The fact that the Supreme Court decided that all testing for COVID-19 will be free. Obviously, government testing was already free, but the private sector was charging 4,500 rupees per test for a test that costs about 10,000 rupees. Now, while the Supreme Court has made a decision that everyone does welcome, there is some lack of clarity as to who will pay for these tests. Are the private sector to go out of pocket to work on credit, or will the government refund them at some point? There's been no clarity to that matter. Deepak, thank you so much for speaking with me. First of all, I want to thank your team for the very important work and the role that you're playing in our fight against the COVID-19 virus. I want to understand from you what the understanding is for the private sector with the free testing. Have you heard from the government or the health ministry at all?
I think we are yet to hear something from them. I think the situation right now is we have seen the orders yesterday and everybody is obeying that orders. The clarity yet to be sigged in terms of who's going to pay for this. We know that it is free. There has been a discussion and there has been a writing of something called reimbursements, but there is no process yet been declared or set it up. So obviously a set of labs coming together asking clarity is being done, and hope so we all will have some clarity by the day end or by tomorrow in terms of how do we want to do it free. So it can be, I think, either of two ways. One obviously could be the reimbursement of the entire stuff, and probably getting a lot of support in terms of PPEs, reagent kits and stuff, and then labs at their own part could probably do the testing for free.
Yes. I just want to understand from you, if there is no reimbursement from the government side, how do you expect that the private sector would be able to absorb this cost, and for how long?
I don't think so, because I see there is a too large part of the cost. One is the collections, and the real motivation that everybody is in the front end is not to make money, but to obviously help the country at this point of time. But while they put a lot of healthcare workers in the risk and still put in a lot of money from their own pocket, while the normal routine testing business has also been drastically impacted at this point of time. So it would be very hard for a lot of us to survive.
Well, I do want to ask you this. What challenges have you been facing, or what your collectors have been facing on the ground so far when they go out to collect samples?
I think so since 22nd of March, when we saw the first Janata curfew day till obviously the next 7-8 days, the situations were very, very difficult. Companies like us would have to shut down a lot of cities and probably was on a zero work, while a lot of people have actually already booked their appointments, but a lot of people were not able to reach their houses. There has been incidences wherein we have collected the sample, we are on the road back to our labs, but we are not able to send the samples reach on time to a lab. And there are been instances wherein those samples could not be tested because they could not reach a lab. So we have instances of people being beaten on the ground. But I think it was all because lack of clarity on the ground while essential services were on. But we immediately saw government coming back and obviously taking certain steps of giving us curfew passes. But it is still not 100% foolproof. So there are areas where we've been still being not allowed even if there is a pass. There are areas where we are allowed just by showing a ID as well. So better than the situation in the last week of March right now, but it's not. I would not say it is 100% sorted. And definitely ground personals have a lot of issues being stopped at road, and they're not clear if they can reach a particular spot on time.
Are we testing enough, Deepak? We weren't obviously testing enough when this started about a month ago, but are we testing enough now?
I don't think so, because I think the only way now because you've seen a lot of news coming around that there are a lot of people in Wuhan also which doesn't has any symptoms. And there are a lot of people, more than 50% of times have seen that there was mild symptoms. So you can't just be based on checking on the fever or a cough to come before you can test someone. So the only way of doing it is to scale into a mass testing. And this should also be allowed by voluntarily going into a testing process, because today the norms is that I have to go to a doctor, he should write me a test, and I should have a history of getting in touch. But that doesn't solve the purpose. Voluntarily, a lot of corporates can probably get their employees tested, a lot of people can then get themselves tested, even at the cost of 4,500. They should all be having a test done and obviously understanding if they have been sitting with a virus.
Well, I believe personally that the media has really desperately messed one part of this entire fight up, which is sort of typecasting and negatively casting anyone who is tested positive. The fact that the media uses the word suspect for someone who may have the virus has actually caused people to get nervous. They're not coming forward as much as they should be. We need people right now to come forward and say, hey, you know what? I know someone who's gotten tested positive, so please also test me, as opposed to what's actually happening where people are hiding.
Sure.
Do you think that that messaging is causing problems for your team on the ground as well?
It does in many cases. We have seen the early pre-testing stages and discussions. We have people asking us question that, will your guy come in a complete hazmat suit, or will he come normally? Will he be wearing the PPE suit? And when we tried finding out, the reason they were asking is because they didn't want the neighbors to know that they're getting it tested, and they should not be taken as a suspected case. So we have seen in other cases also a lot of private labs have faced this kind of a problem. And on the health worker side also, a lot of people are not making them enter when they are in a hazmat suit. They think they probably come for isolations, or they are the people who are impacted themselves. So it's a both way problem that probably there is not much there's not much pressure being given on understanding the need, and then obviously motivating people to come forward and probably run stories of those people who have really come forward and saved a lot of lives near them by self-isolating.
There are obviously two tests, that the world is using. The swab test, or the PCR test, which is what India is using right now, where there is a liquid or a sample collected from the mouth area. Now, this is the live virus, which is why the person who's collecting that sample needs to be fully kitted out in the hazmat suit. And there's another antibody test, which is a blood test for which we don't require the suits, we don't require the heavy duty sort of care and in sample collection, but we are not using the second version yet. Can you explain to me why not?
Sure. I think we are a little delayed in using the second process because we thought that we are in control. And as we know, the antibody test or a rapid card test is not the confirmatory test. However, it can be a screening test. And the government probably have looked at just doing the confirmatory test, which is the PCR. But at the same time, we knew earlier days the kits are very, very less. And then the number of labs doing it is also very, very less. So it is not the product that can go to mass testing. If we have to start mass testing, I think antibodies and rapid card kits has to brought in. We have heard Delhi probably buying 100,000 of them tested. I think these are, if you really say the answer is testing, I think we have to get into a rapid card method at the same time, screen up everybody who's getting positive, and obviously routinely make rapid card available for health workers also, so that they can screen themselves even twice a week to make sure that they do not spread the infection.
Deepak, so what does India need right now? If you were to put a checklist out for government and for anyone who's interested, obviously testing is an integral part of the fight against this virus. What would you prioritize?
I think we'll have to prioritize two ways. One has to be the plan of the red spot areas or hotspot areas of doing that mass testing. So you need to get into the rapid card methods, test everyone in that particular area, and select and probably quarantine people based on who's positive and who's negative. And also for the people or the areas that we are trying to probably do a graded lockdown exit, or probably the areas which is not that affected, but we want to open those areas. It would be very dangerous to open those areas without testing even. So the another checklist or a strategy should be those areas which are getting opened will have to again get into some kind of a testing to actually know what is the real situation. And we can't just say now that we are into a situation that we should suspect somebody from checking the fever or a cough or some symptoms. We know there are a lot of people who have almost no symptoms. So it is very, very important that we get into a stage-based testing. So rapid card for all those people who does not show a symptom, but they want to go out, and then get to a PCR for those particular areas or suspects wherein we see there is some kind of a symptom. And then retesting is also very, very important, because if I am turned out to be negative, doesn't mean I always be turned out to be a negative. So there has to be a re-follow-up plan also. As we are hearing, this can return very soon.
Right. Deepak, also, what about the people who need other tests? People who regularly need to check their blood sugar, people who need to check, other, parameters of health. Are those tests still functioning? Is that part of the business still functioning?
Yes, for us, we have created two separate teams. So our COVID task force is completely separated from the normal task force, and the normal task force is on ground in 30 cities today to any kind of testing. What we have seen is obviously a change in behavior. People don't want to obviously call somebody at home, and they're currently ignoring their crucial health parameters. There are cases of people who are sitting at home, and probably a pregnant lady sitting at home, or probably a cancer patient or a kidney chronic patient right now ignoring. So we have urged them, we have sent messages to people that we are working. We are giving them confidence that each and every person who's coming at your home is tested negative, because we're getting ourselves, our people tested first. So you can probably should not ignore these tests, because if you ignore them and you have to land up in a hospital because of any emergency, the hospital is not that ready. So we are actually going to burden our hospitals a lot if we don't test ourselves on time. So this crucial message has to go around, and people have to, obviously, they can delay it for a week or something, but it's almost 3 weeks.
Yes. All right, Deepak Sahni, CEO of Healthians, thank you so much for speaking with me here on Truth Be Told. And for our audience, of course, if you have more questions, leave us a comment at the end of this video. Subscribe, and remember, if you need something cleared up, go to boomlive.in, where you have the strongest fact checking in the country. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.